This video is about Robert Bringhurst's essay, The Persistence of Poetry and the Destruction of the World. And Bringhurst is a Canadian poet who's written on a wide variety of things, and I just want to focus on the title for a moment. So he talks about the persistence of poetry and the destruction of the world. So he's interested in what poetry is, what it means, how it works, and how it persists. And then he's contrasting this with the destruction of the world. So this is a very wide-ranging essay that covers a lot of ground. It's not specifically about poetry necessarily, although Bringhurst develops a definition of poetry that tries to encompass a lot of different things. So this isn't just some article about poems and poets and, rhyming verse and so forth. This is a much more serious engagement with the world and how we as humans know the world. And partly that's why the essay is so wide-ranging. So he talks about religion, he talks about music, he talks about art, he talks about stories in the oral tradition. And so basically he's trying to develop a definition of poetry that encompasses all human forms of knowing. How do we know stuff about the world? And also, he talks about human forms of being, that how do we exist in the world? So he says in the middle of the essay, what does this poetry say? It says that what is, that the real is real, and that it is alive. It speaks the grammar of being. It sings the polyphonic structure of meaning itself. So for him, poetry encompasses knowledge and being, or knowing and existence. However, he doesn't just limit himself to the human world. He's also interested in the natural world, the entire world. Okay, so one of the examples that always stands out to me in this essay is the example of the bristlecone pine. And he talks about these trees in the central Midwestern United States that are 5,000 years old. And somebody went in and cut one down to count its rings and turn it into a statistic. So here we have a living being that's been around for 5,000 years. That's predating most of recorded human history, and this thing has been alive all that time. And the suggestion is humans, in their arrogance, just go and cut it down. They kill the tree. And he's saying, why would we do this? And so this is a way of knowing the world that we humans, okay, I'll take science because this is a scientific example. It has a specific way of knowing the world. It wants to know how old that tree is, and the way it knows that is by cutting it down and counting its rings. And Bringhurst says, look, the tree's alive. It might have its own way of knowing. And that's one of the things that sometimes turns people off about this mode of thinking, is that we say, well, trees can think and know. And he uses that example, if a tree falls in the forest, is anybody around, to hear it? Does it make a sound? And he says that's a silly question because the other trees are around to notice that it's fallen down. Okay? They may not hear it auditorily like humans hear it because they don't have ears, but trees sense the world. They're responsive to light, for example. They grow towards the light, so they have an interaction with the world. And so for Bringhurst, that is a form of poetry. Okay? This isn't, grade 6 talking hickory dickory dock, the mouse ran up the clock. He's talking about the way that trees can know the world, or how whales and other aquatic life can know the world. He talks about Haida Gwaii as an example, that we are invited down into the depths of the ocean, that how do we come to know that world? So this isn't about privileging human knowledge over the rest of the world. It's about understanding that there are all sorts of different ways to know the world, and the goal of poetry is to understand how all those different modalities work, to understand the nature of being, not just human being in the world, but all types of being. Okay?